I would hope that at least one person in the audience will come away from one of my speeches thinking, yes, I can do that. The best way to answer this question is really to tell my story about what led me to create my socially and environmentally responsible cosmetic brand, Honeycorn. So I'll go back to the beginning, really. I grew up in London's Green Belt. I grew up surrounded by a reservoir and woods. And I look back and I'm actually really grateful to have grown up around nature and the environment. There were nature trails that span miles and miles of northwest London, and I feel very lucky to have grown up there in a very lush and green environment. But going back some years, I remember it was in the early 90s, I was 16 years old, and I went on my first visit to West Africa, Sierra Leone, my roots. And Sierra Leone is a hugely rich country in terms of natural resources. However, it's one of the poorest countries in the world. And experiencing Sierra Leone for the first time it was literally a world away from London, where I was born and bred. And nothing could have really prepared me for my visit to Sierra Leone and the organic and subsistence farming experience in a small Sierra Leonean village. And also being truly one with nature, it was such an incredible experience. Seeing crop farmers, they use practices that have been used for hundreds of years, maybe even going back to the beginning of time. It was a really wonderful experience and it blew my mind. So fast forward 10 years and I returned to Sierra Leone and I spoke with these same farmers that grow a plethora of organic crops. I spent time with the elders there and the custodians of the land, and they explained to me the direct impact that climate change was having on them. They explained how their crop cycles and seasons had changed, resulting in unpredictable harvesting, longer rain seasons, spoiled crops, reduced yields, and in turn, poverty and hardship. So this really put a microscope on those who tend the land in order, in essence, to feed the world. Their plight is that they are often the hardest workers and sometimes the most forgotten in terms of being paid and or treated fairly. This is what really piqued my interest in the land, trees, crops, biodiversity, and how indebted this earth is to farmers and pollinators like honeybees who look after our flora and provide our food. Now, this rate really made me become socially and environmentally aware. Bees are the most endangered species on our planet right now. And if there are no bees, there's going to be no honey and essentially no humanity. So, ever since that enlightening experience in Sierra Leone, I've made it my mission to do something to positively support the climate change crisis, which we are seeing play out around the world and on our doorstep. Um, Spending time with those farmers and hearing their stories gave me a passion to explore more about having a holistic approach to business, the environment, and sustainability, and how they can be intertwined and create a synergy. So, Honeycorn was created from the desire to create clean, botanic, organic, and natural skincare products. But this should also go hand in hand with creating a positive and socially, environmentally conscious brand. And that's really been my goal. And our mantra is cosmetics with ethics. Now, with our Be a Keeper campaign, every customer in the UK receives native wildflower seeds to sow in the UK, and this is to help the bee population, because according to David Attenborough, the UK is actually one of the most nature depleted countries in the world, and hence our mission with our Be a Keeper campaign. Now, the goal of Honeycorn is also to work with farmers in the developing world to become beekeepers, also known as apiarists, in order to increase their crop yields and also create additional income from honey. So it's kind of like a 360 approach, or a circular economy approach to business. Now, around the time of starting Honeycorn, one of my very first mentors is, he was one of the founders and pioneers of fair trade. He actually worked with the late Anita Roddick, who was the creator of the Body Shop. And he worked with Anita Roddick and also the cooperative farmers in Ghana to supply the ingredients to Anita Roddick. And so through him and through following her story and stellar career, I really learned a lot about the importance of having an environmentally and socially responsible brand. And I really do believe that it's the likes of people like Anita Roddick that have paved the way for so many indie cosmetics brands today. Something that I'm also really passionate about, and I try to think about in every aspect of my business, are the Sustainable Development Goals. There is a 2030 target, and we're just 7 years away from that target. And so what I do is I really strive in any and which way I can to ensure that my cosmetics brand, Honeycorn, contributes in as many ways as it can to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And I think this is really where my passion and compassion for the planet is rooted, because there is no planet B. So let's help save the bees and also feel good by doing good. I think the biggest hurdle that I've faced while starting my business is really the lack of funding. And the lack of investment opportunities for women in business. I'm at a stage where I'm really looking to scale my business. My goal is for my brand to go international and to compete with some of the biggest brands in the world. However, things such as, marketing, social media, it really does require a lot of investment, whether it's financial investment or even just time. And so I would say that is one of the biggest hurdles I've had in business. It hasn't held me back, however. I've found that even though there's a hurdle, I always try and find a solution to the problem. And so having a hurdle like that has actually made me become more creative and more innovative to find solutions to problems that can essentially help elevate my brand and my business. So it can actually be a good thing having hurdles. Nothing's ever easy in business, which I totally understand. And investment is hard to come by. However, it really does keep me up at night thinking, well, how can I do this with a limited budget of that? And I think that that's really helped progress my business in an ethical and sustainable way. Minimum order quantities, that's a hurdle. Again, if you have the investment, you're able to invest in larger quantities. And some businesses will only work with you for a minimum order quantity, which sometimes can be quite high. So that has been a hurdle, but one that I am definitely overcoming just by being creative, innovative. And it's something my mum always taught me, is like, make the best of what you've got. And so I really just take that approach on and don't let it stop me.
It's really hard to try and build a business ethically. I think there are a lot of shortcuts that you can take that maybe impeach on those ethics a bit, but it is a real uphill battle. I really commend you for it, because it's really hard.
It is really hard. And this is like my baby. Honeycorn is my baby. And I say that when my son was born, Honeycorn was born, and that I had two babies. And so I want to protect my baby and my brand, to be ethically conscious and on the right side of history as well. And I really do think that businesses have a responsibility to really think about, from the beginning of where a product comes from until the end of where it's going to go, whether it's going to end up in landfill, can it be recycled, what packaging are you using, is it biodegradable, is it sustainable, is it recyclable, are the is the packaging recyclable and recycled. So these are all the things that I have to think about, and that can sometimes be more expensive in a way than using the likes of maybe plastic, or maybe outsourcing from hundreds of miles away. I really do try to ensure that all my products and ingredients, although they're from all around the world, that I work with UK partners. That's really, really important to me as well.
Definitely. I think it's interesting to talk about the promotion side of it. I mean, even though I'm a writer and social media manager by trade, it's still an incredibly big task to keep a social media active and engaging for people.
It's a full-time job. It really is a full-time job. It takes up so much time, and time is money at the end of the day. And when you're a solo entrepreneur, you're doing about 10 or 15 different jobs, that you're not necessarily qualified to do. Although I've started up this skincare brand, Honeycorn, I come from a sales background, and I was very, very good at it. But it was, back in the days where you would actually have a meeting face to face with somebody, and there wasn't all this, virtual meetings like there are now. And you can't get ahead in business today, I feel, unless you're on social media and investing a lot of time in that. So, when you are starting a business, even if it's a product-based business, you're not just creating a product, you also have to create content. You're a content creator as well. So that really is something that you have to factor in when you're starting a business, is that, it's not just about creating a product and going and selling it. You really have to think about the content and also plan for it. What I've realized now, and I've kind of stepped back a little bit from social media, because I found that I really need to do a lot more planning, and that the output that I put, whether it's on Instagram or now TikTok, or I don't know what social media is going to come next, that you need at least 6 months worth of planning before you even start. And I feel like I'm in that phase now. So I've taken a little bit of a step back from social media just now. I'm gearing up to Christmas. I'm actually working a lot on my social media output, so that when I decide to hit the button, that I've got at least 6 months worth that's ready to go. Well, creating a more gender inclusive environment really means giving women a fair chance in leadership roles. For women working in business and working for companies, we really need allies. So it really is a partnership between men and women to create gender inclusive spaces. I do think that hybrid working, which I think has been escalated post-pandemic and seems to be the norm at the moment, could really help balance up and make business owners become more gender inclusive, especially as a mother, or as a parent, as a single parent. I find this really important, having the opportunity to bring up my son, pick him up from school, do all the different activities that he has to do, so I can focus my time on him, so it doesn't feel like I'm away from him all the time, but also have the time and the flexibility to focus on my business. I think with the traditional 9-to-5 job, back in the day, it was Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and there was no flexibility in that. But now with, an online world where, the online world is open 24/7, it's like when you're in business, there aren't enough hours in the day, especially when you're caring for a child. So you can't necessarily always work 9 to 5. Sometimes I will stay up to 12 o'clock at night, doing what I need to do. So I think flexibility in terms of working hours, also hybrid working, and having allies. It's really important to have allies that, will create a space for us. But in saying that, one of the reasons why I started my own business was because I really felt that I wouldn't be given the positions that I thought I should be in. I didn't like being micromanaged. And so being an entrepreneur, I think will create a level playing field for people who are creating businesses. And a lot of women are creating their own businesses. I think it's shot up like 22% since I think it was 2018 or something like that, or 2019. So I think women becoming their own bosses and creating their own rules is a way to level up the playing field and to be much more gender inclusive.
I think it's nice to have that sort of hybrid between sort of contracted permanent work and your own sort of personal passions and interests, and like being able to see value in all the different sort of routes you can go down. I think people, especially women, have a lot more options.
Oh, without a doubt, women definitely have a lot more options, and I think it's amazing. I mean, one of the things that I do is I do a lot of office pop-up shops, and I've noticed post-pandemic that there are not nearly as many people in the office as there were before. People are working from home, and I think that there is much more of a work-life balance now, because of this hybrid working. I think it's great, but we do need allies as well. We really do need allies to create spaces for us. However, I believe women are also in a place to create their own opportunities. If men aren't willing to do that, then I think we need to do it ourselves. And I believe sisters are doing it for themselves and have been doing so for a long time. So may that continue. I hope that audiences can take away from my public speeches. Well, I really hope that they are engaged, entertained by what I have to say, motivated, inspired, and also informed. And I would hope that at least one person in the audience will come away from one of my speeches thinking, yes, I can do that. And learn from my struggles, my wins, and my entrepreneurial journey as a whole, which I am still on. I'm still on that road. I'm still on that journey. I'm still hitching lifts, to get to the top of the mountain. But it's a great journey. It's a tumultuous journey with many ups and downs. But I hope that I can inspire people to start their own businesses, because whenever I speak to people and I say that I'm an entrepreneur, one of the things they say is that you're really brave, and I'm like, brave, but it is a brave thing to do, because a lot of the time it is uncharted territory. It's not like we get taught how to be an entrepreneur at school. You kind of have to pick it up as you go along, or learn from entrepreneurs before you. And I think being an entrepreneur is a fantastic opportunity, and one that I wouldn't change for the world. And I hope this comes across in my speeches, and that people are motivated by that.